Today, I'm going to show you how to turn your chords from boring to beautiful. If you've ever just gotten tired of the chords you're playing, or you want to add personality to your guitar parts, I made this video for you. I'm going to show you the secret that pro guitarists use to make our parts sound interesting, unique, and custom made for every song, even when we're just strumming. It's shockingly easy because it's not a technique thing. It's just about understanding how songwriting works, so you can start doing it even as a beginner. In fact, a lot of guitarists use a variation of this trick to avoid playing some of the most annoying chords. And if you stick around to the end, I'll show you how to do that too. Let's go. Let's start by making some variations on a chord you already know. I'm going to use a G chord. Now when I play, I tend to use a 2-finger version, middle finger on the low E string, and I use my pinky or ring finger, either one works, on the high E. That's very important for this specific technique. You'll see why later. And all we want to do to start is come up with other notes that we could put into this chord. So just choose any string you want, and we're going to put a different note on there. Now there's a way to choose notes that are more likely to sound good, and that is to use things that are in the scale of your key. So if my song is in G, I'm going to use a G scale. And all of those notes are fair game. Now, if you don't know the key that your song's in, and if you don't know that scale, there's actually a really easy hack to figure it out. Just take all of the chords that you're playing. So for me, it would be G, C, D, and E minor. Take a look at any one string and look at all of the different notes that have been introduced across those chords. So for example, if I use my high E string, a G chord uses fret 3, a C chord uses the open string, and a D chord uses the 2nd fret. I then know that all 3 of those notes are in my key and are going to be valid variations that I could use for this G chord. Let's hear them. I can repeat that process on as many strings as I want, as many times as I want. In fact, a really good exercise to practice this is to use that middle finger to hold down that low G, and then try to play a whole G scale up above that without letting this finger go. Keeping any one of those notes in your chord could be a valid variation of a G chord. I can also do as many of them as I want. I can make multiple changes at the same time. If you really want to get comfortable with all of your options, repeat this same process with each chord. So next I'm going to grab a C chord, and I'm still going to play a G scale. I wouldn't use a C scale here because I'm not in a different key. I'm still in the key of G. So my scale is still. So really all I'm doing in this first step is trying to figure out what other notes could be included in each chord. But that's not necessarily going to mean that I'm going to make a best choice about which notes should be included. So how do we do that? That's where our songwriting principle comes in. Anytime you introduce a new note that doesn't belong, whether it doesn't belong to the scale or it doesn't belong to the chord or anything like that, you have to justify its presence there. When I play a weird chord like this, that might sound really gross on its own, but in context, it can sound beautiful. So how do I justify the note's presence? Or how do I convince your ear that the note belongs? Well, one really easy way is that I can just keep a note the same between different chords. See, if it makes sense in one chord, your brain's going to allow it to make sense in another chord, even when it really doesn't. Let's try that out. That high G that I kept on with my pinky, it belonged in the G chord and the C chord and the E minor chord, but it didn't belong in the D chord. But you were okay with it being there because it just stayed the whole way through. Let's do the same thing with a D. See? There's two variations I could do on that if I wanted to add a little bit of motion. One of them is to go to the next chords note just slightly earlier. Let me show you that. And then the other variation is the opposite of that. I can hold on to a note into the beginning of my next chord. I'll show you that too. You might have noticed that almost all of my examples so far have just involved changing notes on the high E string. You can change it on any note, but there's a couple reasons I've stuck up here. One is because your ear tends to pay attention to the highest and the lowest thing that it hears. So if I really want to draw your attention to it, I'm going to do something up higher. If I wanted to hide it a little bit more and have it be kind of behind the scenes, I might do it in the middle. The other reason is because the bass actually carries a lot of weight, and it means that you can make mistakes more easily. If I play just these notes, you might be able to imagine the chords that I want behind them. What that means is that if I accidentally change that bass note to something that's not going to work, it's really going to have a negative impact on the song. Whereas I can experiment a lot more freely by changing high notes, and you can pick some weird stuff, and it's still probably going to work. So far we justified a note by keeping it the same, whether between the whole chord progression or just two chords. But there's another thing that we can do also. We can create a melody or a little melodic fragment that gets repeated over and over. And that can get repeated over every chord. And again, we'll justify notes that don't belong. Let's come up with one. You'll notice that I changed something the very last time. You don't always have to do that, but anytime we repeat a melody or a phrase, we tend to do it either 3 times, where the first 2 are short, short, and then the third one is a longer variation. I might do this. Or we repeat it 4 times, and the first 3 are exactly the same, and the fourth has a slight change to it. That usually helps our ear to get not quite as bored as we listen to it over and over. Here's another variation on the same idea. You might have noticed in that very last example, I was finger picking, and I actually didn't need to use a full chord. Listen again just to the beginning. I only use 2 different strings, 2 notes at a time. A lot of times if you're finger picking, just having the bass and a single little melody like that that gets repeated is enough to give the audience the information of the chords that they need. Now, if you've been worried that that seems like adding a lot of work with new notes, fingers moving around, and you were hoping to make it easier, here's the spot where we can do that. One of the easiest ways to create these interesting added notes is to use open strings. Open strings are actually a perfect way to implement that very first technique I showed you, where you leave something to ring out the entire time. You'll hear this a lot in Celtic music, where you maybe have a bagpipe droning one single note the entire time. You'll hear it in a lot of modern folk music like Mumford & Sons, where they tend to use an open string or certain notes that just never leave. And you'll hear it in a lot of really kind of chill, relaxing background music, where you just want to keep a low, open sound going the entire time underneath everything else. Here's an example. This is both most helpful and easiest to use when we play in the key of E, which is usually E, A, B, which is one of the worst bar chords, and C sharp minor. Now, if I'm playing a strumming part, I want to get away from those bar chords as quickly as possible. Not just because they're tiring on the hand, but because they won't really show off what the guitar does well. If I'm strumming an acoustic guitar, listen to this. That's fine, but it just doesn't have as much life as chords that have open strings in them. What if instead of this, I played this? It's actually very easy to pull off. All I did is play my normal A, B, and C sharp minor chords, except for I got rid of all the notes on the E string and the B string and played open strings instead. That's literally it. If you want a slightly more colorful version of the same thing, watch this. All I did there was I took my E shape. Note that I'm playing it with my middle, ring, and pinky as if I were going to do a bar. And then I raised this up 5 frets. I'm going to put my pointer finger on the A, which is fret 5. And then I'm still leaving the B and E strings open. This is a different version of A. Let me raise the whole thing up 2 more frets. You get this really cool dissonance between that E and that D sharp that sounds really pretty. And then finally, you can do C sharp in the same way we did before back here. Or I like to do it up on fret 9. I'm using my middle finger on E string fret 9. It's muting the A string, and then I've got ring and pinky on the 9th fret of the D string and the G string. It's the same notes as my open B and E. There are so many great ways to add personality to your guitar parts. Whether you're strumming or finger picking, whether you're a beginner or a seasoned professional, you can put yourself into your playing. But knowing what notes to play is only half of the equation. Being able to pick a strumming pattern or finger picking pattern that works for your song too is just as important. And if you want to learn how to make custom rhythm patterns, check this video out next.